today we're here with Holly Rhodes. Holly, thanks for being here with us. Pleasure to talk with you. I'm very curious, what is your background? I know you're very well versed in psychological things, so I'd love to start there.
Yeah, so my background is I did a classic psychology degree for my bachelor's, and then I moved straight into the world of mental health. And so I was working as what was called a peer support coach in my first role, which was to work with people who kind of slip between the gaps of hospitalization and psychological care within a hospital setting and those who are seen within typical community services. And so people would get rejected from one from not being severe enough and not accepted into the other for being too severe. And these are a group of people who really do need support and want support. And so our service was to specifically work with those people. And then from there, I went on and trained as a low intensity cognitive behavioral therapist, and now have entered into coaching psychology.
How did you go down this path? Like, was there a pivotal moment in your life as a kid or anything where you were maybe going one way and you started to go this way, or have you always kind of been on this path, do you feel?
Yeah, that's a really interesting question. I feel like since I was a young teenager, I knew that I wanted to do something within psychology, and kind of my interests within psychology have evolved, or probably every year since then. But since being a young teenager, I knew, like, I've just always been fascinated with why people do what they do, which is potentially just me being nosy, but I'm very curious about my own experience as a human and about other people's experiences. And so that is what led me into this field.
The mind is so incredible and complex. It's crazy how little we still know about it. But what's interesting is coming up is all this new research on it. So is there any new shocking research that you've found that has surprised you?
So not necessarily a surprise in terms of, I feel like we all feel it anecdotally, but a surprise in terms of the extent of it has been the impact of social media usage and technology usage on mental health. So I've been reading lots of research and books on this topic. So a book that's kind of garnered quite a lot of attention at the minute is Jonathan Haidt's The Anxious Generation, where he talks us through all of the statistics about basically when smartphones were introduced and social media platforms started getting popular, we can see a huge decline in the mental health of all teenage populations. And that has just continued and gotten worse and worse. And it's across the board with all sorts of mental health problems and mental health related behaviors, so self-harming and suicidal behaviors. And honestly, the statistics they in themselves are shocking just for the sheer size of the impact.
And did they talk about why that's happening, like specifically within social media? Is it the comparison? Is it the upward social comparison aspect, or is it an interplay of a lot of different factors, do you think?
Yeah, so there's loads of different aspects to social media which make it have a negative impact on our mental health. Part of it is definitely, I mean, if we look at image-based social media apps, they are designed to make us compare and make us scrutinize ourselves and scrutinize other people in what we can see in, a few centimeters on a screen. So that definitely has an impact on your sort of self-identity and self-worth. But other things, first of all, it's taking us away from the real world. It's taking us away from the outside. We aren't playing as much, we aren't spending as much time with other people in a kind of real synchronous setting. We are consuming way too many different types of information that our brain is not equipped to deal with all at once. So we are getting really overwhelmed. So if we just think of the news, I think everybody has probably felt this kind of overwhelm with how many different perspectives we can be exposed to within a few minutes on social media. And we're hearing news from all corners of the world, whereas previously we would have just heard, what was going on in our village, maybe. And so it's normal that we're feeling overwhelmed. Also, if we look at, for example, just the social connections, I already mentioned that we're spending less time with people in real life, but we suddenly have way more kind of fake connection with people online. So we have, some people have kind of thousands of friends on Facebook, if anyone still uses Facebook, or thousands of connections across these platforms. And so we have loads of insight to all of these people's lives where previously we wouldn't. So there's a Dunbar's theories about the amount of social connections that we can have at any one time and the closeness of those connections. And I think it's like 5 people that we're supposed to have real close connection with, like best friends, right? Or really close family members. And now it's like we have so many people we know weird details about their home life, family life experiences. And I think our brains are just getting kind of fried with all of this information, not to mention like the addiction to short form content and kind of cheap dopamine thrills on our phone. And so essentially like our brain is going through a lot of overstimulation, overconsumption that it's not really designed to go through.
I know it's so much to deal with. This so much. I know I personally struggle with, getting lost in the doom scrolling. What are some things? Are we kind of figuring out some ways to combat this? Especially what I'm really curious about is the news. Like how do you, when you're getting news about distant countries and then you feel internally as if it's your neighbor and you want to do something and it just feels helpless. What are some tools people can employ? What is the research?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I mean, specifically regarding the news aspect of it, there's also been research that when people are involved in activism, so okay, many people feel sadder or they go through more emotional struggles when they're reading a lot of news. However, if they're involved in some activism to help with whatever it is that they're, worrying about for other people within the world, then they feel a great rise in their well-being. So that could be something, is trying to channel that energy that you've got that's making you feel sad and frustrated, understandably, on the counterpart of all of these people in the world that are suffering. Channel that into a useful energy of what can you do that is a small act of activism to help somebody in that community in some way. And hopefully that will help kind of bring a sense of fulfillment and some, at least not a feeling of helplessness, which I think that feeling of helplessness and powerlessness is part of what adds to the mental health struggle with being exposed to so many different other people's sufferings around the world. Another thing is potentially limiting your amount or time exposure to like media consumption and news consumption. So for example, I can't think of the name off the top of my head, but there's an app or a website that will give you short bites of the news from different perspectives all in one go. So you can just limit it to maybe one website that you go on and you get a fairly unbiased look at the news because you're seeing all of the different biased perspectives, and therefore you've got the
news, ground news.
is it that one?
That's what it
Okay.
sounds like what you're describing. Yeah.
Yeah, great. So to do that, and then you get everything that you need to see in the news or that you might want to see in the news in one go, and therefore you can catch yourself if you find yourself looking into news on other platforms then, or doom scrolling looking at news, you can catch yourself, knowing that you've already got what you need from a different place. And then I think it's just in terms of like other social media reduction. So this is something that people really struggle with because these apps are designed to be addictive. Same as with the news, it's sensationalized, and so it creates these really strong emotions and keeps us coming back. So we can take from other areas of addiction and look at how those interventions work and apply those somewhat to social media. So it's about like limiting access. Some people might choose to go cold turkey altogether. That can be difficult in today's society, especially a lot of workplaces require you to use your phone. And so it might be more looking at how can we restrict it and putting as many steps between you and the addictive behavior as possible, and to make it less likely that you will actually end up on a 2-hour doom scroll session. So can you download apps that ask you to take a breath before you actually open the Instagram app or whichever one it might be? You lock your phone in a different room when you're going to bed so that in the morning, the first thing you do cannot be to go on your phone. So it's looking for where can you make these small changes at first, perhaps, to stop it being something that you just constantly have access to, and to create a little bit of awareness in your mind of, do I need to be using this thing right now? Or do I feel healthier, more energized when I do purposefully keep it away?
Yeah, what I found to be a very useful free tool that's on a lot of our phones is like the timer app. Like if you want to scroll, you can just put like 20 minutes or something. okay, you want to relax for 20 minutes. You don't have to think about it. You put on the timer. It shows up on the top of your phone because it's one of the newer phones. And then it kind of when it goes off, it jolts you out. It's like, oh, it like takes you out of that kind of
Yeah.
daze that you're in.
Yeah.
So I like that, especially when there's all these paid options, if people want something free. What are you doing personally? I'm very curious to limit your usage.
Yeah, so this is really interesting. So I actually conducted a survey and found that a lot of people, just in regards to what you said about the timer, a lot of people thought that these kind of first line defenses against unhealthy phone use could easily be overridden. And I've noticed that myself as well. So previously, maybe I've deleted apps off my phone, and what will I do? Maybe I'll go onto my laptop and I'll search it on there or something like that. So we can and will override these things sometimes if we don't also have extra support in place. And so what that looks like is building in other activities into your daily schedule that give you that same dopamine kick, probably hopefully a nicer dopamine kick, a longer lasting one because it's more real and authentic, and some of the other feel good chemicals too, so that the phone doesn't seem so attractive anymore. So what I noticed was that on the weekends, my phone usage was way down compared to in the week. And why is that? That's because in the week I'm stressed. I've got tasks to do at work. What do I do when I procrastinate? I go on my phone. This is such a common story, is try and look at what are the emotions that are causing you to have unhealthy phone usage. And often it is around something like stress, anxiety, low mood. When you know what the emotion involved with that is that you're trying to escape and what the situations are that can trigger that, and you can put things in place. So for example, let's say I know that on the weekend, something that stops me from using my phone is being out in nature, because when I'm out in nature, I'm stimulated by all of the natural colors, the wildlife, I'm having a conversation outdoors with real people, and there's no part of me that wants to be on my phone in that situation because I'm naturally stimulated and having a good time. And so where can we get little bits of that and put it into the moments where we're getting triggered within the week, for example? So some people, I for example, am working at home. Some people don't have the option to be super active within their daytime. But what we might have is, let's say, 5-10 minute slots within the day where we can do something rather than nothing. So I've noticed that a lot of people have this mentality. A lot of my clients that I work with have this mentality of, if I can't do it perfectly, I'm not going to do it. And that is just shooting yourself in the foot. So if you don't have an hour to go for a walk, but you've got 5 minutes, do something with that 5 minutes. So even if you can't go out for a full walk, can you go to your window and do some steps on the spot? Do you have a plant that you can go and just admire? I know that sounds silly, but like taking like a mindful moment of like looking at this plant and looking at the different colors or something like that can be really effective. And it's these little things that I've been trying to implement to reduce my unhealthy phone usage myself.
I'm ready to go admire a plant right now. I love that. I'm going to do that today.
Yeah, that should be like the daily check-in. Have you admired a plant today?
Yeah. All right. Well, are you working on a course?
So I'm making a beta version of my course right now, which is around reducing unhealthy phone and tech usage. So I'm specifically focusing more on like phone and social media, but it will apply as well to people who struggle more with kind of video game addiction, that kind of thing. And yeah, so I'm going to be making probably like a 6-week course. At the moment, it's looking like looking into all of that. So identifying the emotional triggers, creating a life outside of your phone that makes you want to stay off your phone, and how we can implement that into the daily life, as well as looking at some of those strategies for just kind of limiting yourself in the moment. So how do we get out of the doom scroll when we're in it? That kind of thing.
That's such important work. I'm so glad you're doing that. Where can people find this course when it's available?
Yeah, so if people follow me on Instagram, which is Holly Rose Coaching, and I'll be giving updates on there. And if anybody wants to sign up to be a beta tester of the course, they can drop me a DM on there. And when it's ready, I'll send them some more information.
Awesome. Well, it was wonderful talking to you, Holly. And I'm just really excited to put these strategies and tools out into the world and see who they help and benefit. Thanks for speaking with me today.
Thank you. Now let's go and admire some plants.